And so the remold train begins with Transformers Power of the Primes Wave 2. It's been a long time coming here. In fact, it's, as of this recording, early April, early to mid-April. And only now are we starting to have them show up in my neck of the woods. And I'm going to begin things with the Legends class figures. And when I say that the remold train begins now, of course I'm talking about this guy, Tailgate. And he looks pretty great. I did add a couple of very slight custom paint apps, not enough to call it a custom, but we'll talk about that more in just a little bit. Stick around because he's going to be the focus in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel again. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. It is fantastic to have you here. Please like, comment, share, and of course I'm going to say please subscribe. So very important. Check me out everywhere. Have a look at Machinery of Man the Everything Factor. And this is the Minibot Tailgate. I wasn't really going to get this guy. I was sort of fine with the Generations version, as imperfect as that is. Nevertheless, I'm glad that I did, because when I saw him on the peg, I thought that the colors looked fantastic. This is a great homage to the G1 toy. Not so much for the G1 cartoon, but we'll talk about that later. I like the guy. The joints are very tight and solid on him. This time, because I've already shown the conversion going from robot to vehicle, the way he comes in a package, I'm going to go from vehicle to robot, just so both directions are documented for you here on the channel. Does he turn out to be better than his Generations counterpart? Well, we'll see. When we take a few minutes now, head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. And as promised, here we have Tailgate. He's in his vehicle mode because I've already shown how to do the conversion via wind charger from robot to vehicle. This time I'll do vehicle back to robot, because when I have the opportunity to show both transformation methods on the channel, I certainly like to do that. But before I get into any more explanations, a couple of long overdue shoutouts. Shauna Hanlon, Peter Blackmore, Little Unsworth, Sarah Kearley, J.L. Vatron, Dolcar Toys and Stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, he just recently changed his name. If you're looking to check him out, and I've mentioned him many times here on the channel, check out Q's Reviews. Steve Evans, Buffalo Cows. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. You know who you are. John Cena Reactions, Beastly Boys, Misaki, Roth Reviews, Starscream 91, IDK Man, Firehawk Productions, King of Gaming on Cybertron, Beep Beep Lettuce, Bacon _ Kent _ PvP. I do love bacon. Joshua's Prime 93, Leia World, Hobo Joe, Mr. Rogan, Winter Seeker 13, TFN 1986, Jose Maldonado, Fox Derp, Megatron Prime, Brandon 123 MLG Gaming 1, and James Going. I know that was a lot, but thank you to them and to everybody else. It's so hard to try and get to everybody, but I try and do as many as I can. Now, like I said, I already looked at the conversion for this mold right here a little while ago in episode 339, when I kind of talked about the Power of the Primes scrapnel figure using the earlier release of that mold, and I took a look there at Wind Charger, who I showed, as mentioned, the transformation going from robot to car, so we're going to go backwards this time. You know what, before we get into the figure, let's look at the packaging and get that out of the way first. And there we go, it's packaging, nothing to get that excited about. There's the front. On the back, of course, we have the ever popular product shot and a little brief description about how he kind of drains power from everybody else. which is sort of a cool ability to have. We also have instructions that I'm not going to show because, you know, they're instructions. But here's the ever popular collector card, and this one is for Onyx Tailgate. And it basically talks about how he keeps pursuing until he has his target. I preferred these when they had stats on them. I don't know, I guess it's cool to have the description, but, you know, Onyx Prime is going to be coming with the Predaking box set as far as I know. I guess that's cool if you're down for it. I'm not really. I already kind of talked about Predaking and my thoughts on that a little while ago. I don't know if I'd want to buy the whole box set just to get Onyx Prime. By the way, in talking about Predaking and the upcoming box set, recently I kind of looked at the offerings we have, and before the reveal took place, I sort of speculated on where potentially the Titan's Return, or sorry, the Titan class version of that combiner could fit in. And I kind of still stand by my assessment at the time. If you want to check out the details about all that, it kind of kicked off in episode 354, looking at kind of iterations of that character from G1 right up to the Titan class version and all of the third-party offerings that we have. I looked at everything to do with the third-party combiner known as Warlord, going from episodes 356 right up to and including his combined mode in episode 361. Then I looked at a KO of MMC's Feral Rex, done by Jin Bao. I started taking a look at that in episode 363 and went all the way to the combined mode in episode 368. And I kind of gave some final thoughts, some closing thoughts, if you will, in episode 369. I feel like I've been doing a whole lot of house cleaning here, so how about we get into the figure himself? He rolls great. I totally dig the fact that he's a card that rolls nicely. In terms of his paint apps, well, see, here's where we kind of start to have a couple of just minor gripes. In vehicle mode, this is white plastic, this is white plastic, this is white painted onto black plastic, and it's not exactly a match, and that sort of drives me a little bit crazy because I'm a stickler for this stuff matching. Normally I don't feel like I'm such a stickler for it, but for some reason with this guy it really stands out. Underneath, we see most of his robot mode, which we will talk about in more detail. I did add a couple of custom paint apps of white down here. Really, the center where his Autobot symbol is should also be white. The Autobot symbol should be higher up on his chest. Instead of being silver on his chest, we should have white as well. And his head, well, the face is silver, but the head is white. The whole thing should be silver, or even more accurately, gray. That being said, this is extremely accurate to the G1 toy. You're not mistaking that it is Tailgate if you know the character, if you know the toy. I really like animation, but I can't mistake the fact that it has that toy accuracy. I'm going to say that it's certainly better than the earlier generations release of the guy we had, which we'll also talk about in a little bit. I'm going to give his paint apps a solid score of an 8. It's definitely Tailgate. It could have been, I think, just a little bit better. Articulation, we'll talk about that when we get to his robot mode, but we have to do the transformation, and like I said, we're going to go from vehicle to robot. We're going to do that right now. It's solid when it's together. That's the good news. The bad news is that also makes it a little bit of a challenge to get the transformation started for this dude, or at least that's what I find. The entire roof and I guess front windshield are really two parts, and they're kind of thin plastic, and they tab into the hood, and they would fold up behind these sections, which will become his legs. That's where I like to begin, but it's not always easy to pull these tab pieces from the hood out. Oh, by the way, in this mode, I do like and prefer the Autobot symbol in the center. It's a little off-center on Wing Charger, and like that's cool because it matches the character. It's supposed to be a little off-center, but I like symmetry, so I want it in the middle of the hood, if it's going to be there at all. I also like the look of the car. Very accurate. So we really begin, if we can, by there. Begin to flip the legs, and these sections hopefully will come untabbed from the hood. Sometimes they stick a little bit, but once you have that done, really, you just fold the legs out. Pretty simple, and then you untab the legs from each other, and then you fold this piece up and fold this piece in. Mine likes to pop off. Fold this piece up and this piece in, and in essence, you have the lower body of the guy done, certainly well enough that he can stand up. I'm just going to center things a little bit here so that we can do the rest of this guy. And there we go. That's probably a little bit better for our purposes. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. The arms are put on the side, and there's a little notch on the arm. It goes over a very small rectangular peg. You unpeg the arm, and you unpeg the arm. And when you do that, you should be able to kind of bring the shoulders down. Get that out and get that arm out. Angle a shoulder down, angle a shoulder down. And if I get this out of the way, you can probably see the little rectangular peg in on his side. So these come down, perfect. Looks great, doesn't it? Just absolutely beautiful. But he's not quite done yet. We have one piece left to do, and that, well, I guess technically two pieces. You need to flip the head kind of forward so that he's looking down at his feet, and then take this whole section and bend it back. You need to do that because there's a hinge in here, and that hinge needs to be angled back for robot mode. And when you go back to vehicle mode, you bring the head forward, and then you just pull the head up. Now the hinge is forward, and his neck is kind of right to his chest. Head forward, the entire hinge back. So it's kind of a double hinge in there. Then this hood section comes back, down, and there's a little tab here that goes into a little slot on the back to hold this into place. And in the end, boom, there you have Tailgate in his robot mode. Just make sure that I got everything kind of pegged in here. Make sure that those are positioned nicely. And there you have him. Now, like I said, his paint apps are an 8. I did add a couple of small ones down on his hips. Really kind of right across his hips should be white. His chest, that silver, should be white, but I really kind of dig the silver. The Autobot symbol should be more up here instead of down lower on his tummy, I guess. And his whole head, though I like the white out around, that is white paint. And though I like the silver on his face and how the two kind of play off of one another, really the whole thing should be silver. Actually, more accurately, should be gray if you're going for animation accuracy. Is he more accurate than this earlier generation's release? Yes. Yes, he is. And his articulation is better, and his transformation is better. Basically, everything about him is better. Now, there's an argument to be made for the earlier one if you dig the IDW comics, because this is, I think, more inspired by the way Tailgate looks there. Again, not perfect. There are even third-party offerings that might actually kind of do better justice to the character. But I respect that they tried to do this, that they tried to make it kind of creative. I don't think it worked, although the vehicle mode looks stellar on this guy. And if you want to check that out, have a look way back in episode 170. Taking him out of that, we also have, as previously mentioned, the other use of this mold being Wing Charger. And of course, that's, they stack up with each other just fine. No problem there. Which I guess makes sense, considering they're the same mold. Okay, on to articulation. How good does this guy move? Would he be able to dance? Well, I can't but maybe he can. I'm not. I'm really not good at that. I applaud people who are. I was talking about dancing today and how I'm not good at it. On to other business. The articulation. The head can go left and right, which is fine. The arms go all the way around, which is great. They can go out to the side. We have a ball joint at the elbow, which gives us our swivel, and it gives us 90 degree of bend. He can, get his arm a bit across his body, which is fantastic. The legs can do full splits. Can go all the way forward that far, which is, I think that's fine. If you straighten up his knee, that's certainly fine. It can go back if you move the backpack, I guess, out of the way. It can go back even further. So I don't know why he would need to have his leg back that far, but he can do it. We don't have a thigh swivel. I think that's a bit of a shame. There's a little bit of play. Now I can't get his backpack back in. There. There's a little bit of play on the ball joint that gives you limited movement. It's okay. We have a very deep knee bend. 90 degrees or a little bit better. Certainly, we can get more than 90 degrees if we flip this back panel out. If you flip that out, then the leg will definitely go very deep. The joints on this guy are extremely tight. All of them, like tighter on this guy than they were on Wind Charger, which probably isn't a bad thing, since we so often complain about things like arms falling off of ball joints, or legs, or heads. I'm looking at you, Transformers The Last Night Berserker, and you, Steelbane. I looked at those two rather terrible and atrocious figures in episode 260 and 280 respectively. Now, don't get me wrong, they got their fans. That's cool too. Every toy deserves to have a fan. And to be fair, I love the look of Berserker in robot mode. And to be fair, when it comes to Steelbane, he's okay after you do the floor polish fix on literally every joint the guy has. The articulation here is pretty good. It's effective. Again, certainly more effective than the earlier mold where pieces like his elbows and shoulders banged into everything. I'm going to give his articulation, again, a solid 8. Yes, a thigh swivel, a dedicated thigh swivel would have been nice, but I really can't complain overall, and the joints feel good and solid. The transformation isn't bad. I could see the upper chest joint being a little bit of a challenge for kids, knowing to kind of manipulate that in two different ways because it's a double joint. I think it'd be fine once they figured it out. And when it comes to getting him out of vehicle mode, again, I don't think it's too bad. My only concern when it comes to kids is if they're not experienced with these little transforming robots, I could very easily see them popping off or potentially breaking this section because it's really thin. I think it's clear plastic with white painted on it, but it's really quite thin. So we have an 8 for paint apps, an 8 for posability, playability, and transformation. Again, I'm going to say it's an 8. Overall, the guy is an 8. It's a solid entry. It's a solid figure. It's a fine mold. There's certainly nothing wrong with it. It feels pretty durable for the most part. But, again, is this a character you need? Is he a big enough draw? I don't know. That's up to you. I'm glad to have him. I'm glad to replace my other version of Tailgate. But I'm a completionist, and I kind of want a representation, a very accurate representation of all the characters, major and minor. Should you get him? That's up to you. But if you do, I think you can take comfort in the idea that he is, at the very least, a solid entry. And so we're back again with Tailgate, and he's nothing special. He's fine. He's fine. And that's about all I can say. It's a solid mold, and it's a solid transforming toy. I don't know if this is enough of an interesting character or well-known character to grab too many people's attention. However, if you overlook it because you're not super familiar with them, I think you're overlooking what's a pretty fun mold. Is it fine for collectors? Yeah, sure, it's definitely a G1 tailgate. Is it fine for kids? It's all right. I am slightly concerned about the thin plastic back here, and this piece on mine does like to pop off on this side. But that's just my experience with the mold. Yours may vary. I'm glad I have him, but he isn't one of those, oh, I absolutely have to get it. It's one of those, if I see him, you know, hey, why not? He's all right. He's all right. And that is all right with me. Anyway, let me know what you think of Tailgate. Maybe you're his biggest fan ever. Again, I'm going to say please hit that subscribe button. Stick with us here. Thanks for giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I know how important it is. And I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.